Okay, so here we are live once again with another Super Friends unboxing, and this will be the last of the batch of figures that I got this time. It's the man himself, none other, the guy who put the super in Super Friends in the first place. It's Superman, and not only do I have the heroic Man of Steel, but I also have his evil counterpart. From the super enemies in the episode Universe of Evil. Yes, I've got the evil Superman in this cool black outfit with his funky Alice Cooper eye makeup. So I'm really excited to open these up. I mentioned in the Batman episode that I was a really big fan of the episode Universe of Evil when I was a kid. I thought it was so cool to see these super enemies, these evil versions of our heroic super friends. And unfortunately, we never got the episode that I really wanted to see, where Superman and the rest of the Super Friends went back to the universe of evil to have an epic confrontation with the super enemies. Even though they kind of teased it, I don't know if they ever had the intention on following through. But I always wish they would have. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start off with Superman himself. And like with Batman, this is a platinum edition figure for the evil version. Hopefully, they'll do the rest of the super enemies. I would really like to see them. I know Aquaman is in the next assortment, and it would make sense, to put out the super enemies as they get to the rest of the regular super friends. Max Games and Toys is here, and he says the powerful Alan. Thank you, sir. You're quite powerful in your own right. Max did a really great video talking about the connections between He-Man and Conan. That is definitely a video worth checking out. I watched it the other day. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, and you'll be happy to know, Max, since you're watching, I picked up the Thundercats Skelra figure today. So that means I now have almost the entire first assortment of Motu X Thundercats. I still need to get Chitara. So Maxine's was, let's check that Super Friends. Yeah, we are all Super Friends here. So yeah, you can see the back of the package with that nice piece of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez artwork. The Dick Giordano artwork at the top of the logo. It doesn't have any kind of differentiation on the package at all, because we're in small print down above the UPC. It says Superman, and likewise with the Universe of Evil version, it still just says Superman. It looks like they are the same UPC code. So the only difference in the packaging is that they slap that platinum label on there. Maxine says, yeah, Skelra is in the house. Yeah, that means Chitara is the only one I got left to find. So once I have her, I'll have that whole assortment. Hopefully I can find one before that Big Bad Toy Store assortment gets in, and then I'll have a whole bunch of He-Man stuff to open up. I know you've been looking forward to that. I know a lot of my viewers have been chomping at the bit for more He-Man, and don't worry, He-Man is on the way, as is G.I. Joe, and I've even got some Marvel stuff to open up for you. So we should be having a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff to open. But whenever that Big Bad Toy Store assortment comes in, then we'll have more Masters Universe and more G.I. Joe. I figure I've still got to open up the Superman figures that I have for Multiverse, and I've still got to open up the Green Lantern figures that I have for Multiverse. They don't get very consistent with how the tape is. So on Toyman, the card was taped all along the top here. This one is taped like vertically. That one was taped horizontally. I don't even know what to expect anymore. So, but I got the trading card off, and there's a better look at that. It's the picture of Superman that we have in the opening credits, where they're all flying out of the Fortress of the Hall of Justice. Almost said Fortress of Solitude. But in Challenge of the Super Friends, there's that one shot where the whole Justice League is coming out of the Hall of Justice, and that's the same Superman pick from there. Bobby Wald says, how come they don't have Snarf like Orko? I don't know. That's a question you have to ask Mattel. I know somebody had suggested, I don't remember who it was, somebody had suggested on my channel that they have Snarf combined with Battle Cat. I know they already did Battle Cat, but like make Snarf into a mount, like a beast that can be ridden, like like Battle Cat. I thought that was a pretty cool idea. I thought they should do that. All right, so here we got Superman out of the package. We can get a little bit of a better look at Superman. Let's go ahead and get these rubber tabs off of him. Now, this does reuse a lot of parts. Most of the parts from the already released 1966 Batman television show version of Superman. Yeah, I know, Superman was never on the television show. That was based on the comic book, where they did have a cameo by Clark Kent, at least. Although it's not the George Reeves Clark Kent like we saw in the comic. It's just kind of a generic Superman. And he comes with the ubiquitous Bobby Walt says, I think that was me that asked that too. Okay, cool. Like I wasn't sure who it was. I couldn't remember. But there's the Justice League communicator. It looks pretty much like the same one we got with the Flash. But yeah, that was the idea I thought they should do is have Snarf as a mount. I thought that would have been hilarious. Because they got to have Snarf represented in some way. And I'll be a little disappointed if they don't get around. Well, I'll be a little disappointed if they don't get around to Wily Cat and Wily Kid. I'll be very disappointed if they don't get around to the rest of the villains. I definitely want to see Slithe, because I mean, like Slithe is kind of like the Beast Man of Thundercats, and it'd be great to see Jackal Man and Monkey in as well. But Slithe, I think, is the most important one. So here's his main accessory. This is the accessory that's unique to Superman, a kryptonite ball and chain. Now, in the Universe of Evil episode, there is a scene where Superman is bound to a wall with kryptonite manacles, but they don't actually have a kryptonite ball and chain in that episode. That's in a different episode of Super Friends. I don't remember the episode of Super Friends that the ball and chain was on, but I do remember seeing it. I do remember that. It might have even been on a few episodes, for all I know. All right, so we got Superman out of the package, and right off the bat, I want to say this is a definite improvement over the 1966 style Superman. This is definitely a better figure than that. Where did I put? Somewhere around here. I think I put Green Lantern in that box. I don't know why I did that, because I knew I needed Green Lantern for this episode. Oh, he's not in this box. Ah, he's underneath the trading card. Silly me. Sorry about that, folks. And get seated again. All right, so yeah, I couldn't see him because I put that trading card right on top of him. So Green Lantern reuses a lot of parts from this this Superman figure too. He's got a different pelvis, and he's got different lower legs than Superman. But other than that, they use the same arms, they use the same chest, they use the same thighs. Now you can see on Green Lantern, there actually is a little bit of a seam at the collarbone. That's where this neck is like a separate piece. So in between the neck and the chest, they put a piece of fabric, and that's how they do the cape. That's how they usually do the capes on these figures. And unfortunately, the way it is, there's a little bit of cape in between that sticks out just underneath where the neck is. And I'm going to see if I can trim that off somehow at some point, but I don't know when I'm going to get around to doing that. Bobby Wald says, not trying to profile, but wouldn't Slithe be like Whiplash since they're both reptilians? Well, yeah, biologically, Slithe is a lot closer to Whiplash, but I'm talking about more like his role in the overall, cast of characters. He's the main henchman of the villain. So he's in that regard, he's kind of like say Starscream, or I don't know, what's another good example? Destro in G.I. Joe, who's like the right hand man to Cobra Commander. Although I'd argue Destro is a lot more competent than Cobra Commander, but but still, he's the second in command. Not that he hasn't overthrown Cobra Commander from time to time. Of course, Starscream always wanted to overthrow Megatron as well. So, but yeah, you can see that they've got the Superman S there on the back, and you can see it's got a black outline around it. And this is accurate to how it was drawn in Super Friends. It actually did have a black outline in between the S and the border around the S. Now, Super Friends being Super Friends, it wasn't always consistent about that, and sometimes you'd have his S drawn in a way more accurate to the comics, where it's pretty seamless between the S and the red border. But in the model sheets and everything, this is the way it was intended to be drawn. And I figured that Alex Toth designed it that way on purpose for the ease of the animators to make it easier for them to draw. So that would be my supposition on that. That's just, I don't know that for a fact. It's only a theory that happens to fit the facts. Now, some people had been a little critical about this Superman head sculpt, saying that it looked a little soft and maybe the ear should allow a little more cheekbone and maybe the chin should have been a little more square. But I'm here to tell you, as a guy who's recently watched a lot of Super Friends episodes, I do think that this head sculpt is very accurate to how Superman's face is drawn on that show. He does have a big chin. Look how that chin just juts out of the head. That's like a freaking Bruce Campbell type chin. This could be Bruce Campbell. I could use this head for like an Ash Williams figure if I wanted to. I don't think I would. I'd just 3D print an actual Bruce Campbell head. But if somebody wanted to do a custom of like an Ash Williams figure and wanted to look a little more animated style, I think that this would be a good head to use if you wanted to do that. And like I said about the Superman figure in the 1966 version, I do think from the neck down, this is a really good Superman figure. And it retains a lot of the elements that I liked about that 1966 Superman figure. Like I said, while that was a very flawed figure, and I think they could have done a much, much better job with it, it wasn't all bad, and it had some good elements to it. And this figure proves me right. I mean, they fixed most of the problems that I had with it. Maybe not as well as they could have, but like I said, the cape could still be a little better in how it attaches to the soldiers. If they had trimmed it back just a little bit from where it is and actually let the neck piece connect straight to the chest right about here. You know what I'm talking about? Max Games and Toys says it looks great. So, we're in agreement on that. So if Max says it so and I say it so, then maybe that means that it's so, right? But yeah, and I like the way they did the curl, which is not very comic book accurate, but again, it is accurate to how they drew it on Super Friends. Again, Alex Toth is a guy who would know how to draw Superman's curl, and I've seen him draw Superman's curl properly in the comics before, but this is supposed to be kind of a simplified version for the cartoon. So I think a lot of the design choices that Toth made when he was designing this particular version of Superman, I think that those were made just in terms of simplicity for the animation. This is not how Alex Toth drew Superman when he drew a Superman comic book, and he did draw a couple of Superman comic books. He didn't do a whole lot, but there's a few Alex Toth Superman comics out there. I would suggest there was a Superman special done in the late '80s where it's a team up with Batman versus Lex Luthor, written by my personal favorite Superman comic book writer, Elliot S., with an exclamation point, Magan. Fantastic story, gorgeous Alex Toth artwork. I believe Terry Austin was the inker on that. And Terry Austin is not a guy that you would think of as being an inker for Toth, but he does a fantastic job. The thing I love about Terry Austin as an inker, and he's like one of the best inkers of comics of all time, is he does all this like really meticulous inking. Like if you look at him going over, say, Marshall Rogers, who's a very meticulous penciler, like to me, that is like the best use of Terry Austin as an inker is over Marshall Rogers. And of course, he did a great job inking John Byrne especially in X-Men. I think that was where the bulk of their team ups were. But yeah, one of the greatest inkers of all time, definitely. But just because he could do that kind of meticulous work doesn't mean he always had to. And sometimes he could ink over somebody like Alex Toth, who has a much more economical style, and he do a beautiful job with it. And he flourished in that as well. And some of my favorite inks that I ever saw Terry Austin do, and it's way outside his wheelhouse. It's not what you would think about Terry Austin doing at all. Was when he inked the Superman Adventures comic book based on the animated series, and again, very simplified, very economical art style to match the cartoon series. But he did a beautiful job with it. Terry Austin, man, shout out to him. Like definitely one of the greatest inkers in all of comics history. Like one of the best, if not the best. Like there's a lot of great inkers, but Terry Austin, I think if you ask me who's the best inker, he would definitely be one of the first ones to come to mind. John Romita, Joe Sinnott, a lot of great inkers, but yeah, Terry Austin, I think, would be my number one. Anyway, I'm talking an awful lot about Terry Austin in a video where I'm supposed to be talking about a Superman action figure, and I don't want to upset the people who say that I talk too much during the videos as it is. But I do think that they made his emblem a bit large. Not necessarily too large for a Superman figure in general. It looks fine just for like a general Superman, but I don't think they ever drew his emblem quite so big on the Super Friends cartoon. I will say that on the back, this one is much more much closer in size to how Superman's emblem ought to be on his cape than we often see. I happen to have him here, the Earth 2 Superman. Like, this is a prime example of this sort of thing. Look how gigantic that S is. But yeah, his is much better proportioned. I think this is a perfectly proportioned S as far as that goes. So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. Superman can't look up very far, which is unfortunate. But like I say, these figures aren't really designed for the up and down, side to side kind of movement. They're mainly just made to rotate all the way around. So any kind of side to side, up and down sort of movement you can get out of, there's a little bit there, but not a whole lot. Any of that kind of stuff is a bonus, so that's cool. Of course, his arms rotate all the way around at the sides, and they move up to the sides about that far. And he's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow, bends in about that far, and then rotates all the way around. Superman has wrists that rotate all the way around, and his right hand is a solid fist, and his left hand is a gripping hand. Superman can rotate all the way around the waist. Superman can kick up about that far. Unfortunately, Superman's buttocks are sculpted onto the pelvis, so he can't kick his leg back that far. Superman cannot do the splits, no problem, unfortunately. And that means he also can't be posed in a running pose quite as well as the Flash figure could. I can't really do a whole lot with the running as far as that goes. That's about the best I could do, unfortunately. But we can get Superman into the classic Kurt Swan flying pose fairly easily. So that pleases me. I always like to see that. Max Games of Toys says it's a great vintage design upgrade with that articulations. Yeah, I agree. Like I always say, these aren't really as highly articulated as the multiverse figures that Mcfarlane does, but they are more articulated than the superpowers figures that Mcfarlane does and that Kenner did back in the day. But so it's kind of like a nice in between, I think, as far as that goes. If you're not a fan of the Super Friends cartoon, I still think this is a pretty good vanilla Superman. So if you wanted to have, let's say you were only collecting the 1966 figures, and you would like to have a Superman to go with your Batman 66 figures, but you were disappointed in the 66 Batman they actually made, I think he still looks pretty good with the Adam West version of Batman. And if you wanted to have like a more realistic head sculpt, I suppose you could swap out the head sculpts. But I don't think the skin color matches up that well. Unfortunately, I'm not sure where mine is at the moment. He's probably in that big stack of figures over there on the shelf that I take pictures at. But I guess I don't really have to compare to know that this is a much better Superman figure than that one, and it improved greatly on that 1966 figure. Like I said at the time, I didn't think the 1966 figure was all bad, and I thought with a few slight improvements it could have been better. And Mcfarlane has proved me correct. So kudos to those of you at Mcfarlane who improved this figure. Lone Dragon is here. Cheers to you as well. And now we'll move on to the Universe of Evil Superman. And he was not glued very well on that side of the package, but glued well enough at the top that it tore off part of the Super Friends logo. And then we have the trading card, which is, to the surprise of no one, just like with Batman, it's the same exact trading card. He doesn't get his own Universe of Evil trading card, unfortunately. But I mean, technically, this is a Platinum Edition figure. This isn't supposed to be like its own figure. This is a variant figure. So I guess I'll put both the trading cards over there in the stack of trading cards that I got going on over there. And I was curious about this. They did indeed do a slightly darker yellow on the cape for the Universe of Evil Superman. I did notice that he has slightly darker color on the figure, but I kind of wondered if they would bother to do that with the cape. But they did a lot of things they didn't have to do with this figure, and we'll get into some of those. Like, I think they probably could have just used the same yellow, and I don't think most people would have noticed. The main difference in this version of Superman's costume is obviously that he has a black suit rather than a blue suit. He's still got red, and the red it looks to be the same color of red. It's the same shade of red. I don't think there's any difference in that red whatsoever, but the black is definitely different, and the yellow is a little bit darker. And like I said, they probably could have gone with the same yellow, and I don't think most people would have noticed or cared. I'm sure like there would have been some puritanical folks out there that would have seen it and been like, hey, shouldn't he have like a slightly darker yellow than what he has there? That yellow looks awfully canary yellow to me when it really should be goldenrod. Like there would be some people out there that would be like that. But I probably wouldn't have minded. I probably wouldn't even have noticed. And then we have here the Justice League communicator device, and it does look to have JLA on there. But of course, this is not a member of the Justice League, is it? He's not a super friend. He's a super enemy. They were called the super enemies on that show. Now, a lot of the times they would call the super friends by their proper comic book name of the Justice League. That would be something we would hear from time to time in episodes. It seemed like they were pretty interchangeable as far as that goes. And so, okay, this is interesting. Evil Superman's cape is taped into the package. They did not do this with good Superman. Regular Superman does not have his cape taped into the package. Evil Superman has his cape taped into the package. I'm going to take this as confirmation that taping the cape into the package is evil. That's how I'm going to interpret that. All right. So now we got Evil Superman out of the package, and hopefully I didn't mess up his cape too much by pulling on it while it's taped. You can see that it did get a little stretched out of shape because I didn't notice it didn't run, unfortunately. And I'm worried that there's going to be some residue that's going to cause it to stain, like I always do with these capes. But yeah, they went the extra mile with Evil Superman. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I was going to talk about. So JLA, his communicator device is still stamped JLA, but I don't know what JLA stands for in this context because they're not the Justice League of America. So I guess I got what's a bad word that starts with J? I mean, not like a curse word, but like a word that means evil, like the Jerk League of America or so. I don't know. Who knows? So, but yeah. So it makes sense to have a super enemies communication device. The super enemies did have communication devices, but it shouldn't say JLA on it. Obviously, what happened is they just made a whole batch of these things and slapped them in with the figures. It's identical to the same one that came with the Flash. So they probably just made all of those at the same time. And while we're at it, let's talk about the other accessory, because I haven't had a chance to do that yet. Let's go ahead and clamp this onto his leg. And there's what it looks like when Superman has the ball and chain attached to him. Not Lois Lane. Although I could see this version of Superman referring to Lois. Yeah, the old ball and chain. Jackass, jaded, uh, joyless. Yeah, any of those might work. The the Jackass League of America. So, man, what would Lois Lane be like in the universe of evil? Like, would she still be a journalist, but just like a corrupt journalist? Like, I know somebody out there is going to be, oh, she reports for Fox News or something like that. I know somebody's going to be out there thinking that. But, maybe she's a gangster or a serial killer. Who knows? But I'm sure there is a Lois Lane in the universe of evil, and I'm sure, I'm sure evil Superman is giving it to her regularly. So anyway, he's got the same amount of articulation, obviously, as the regular Superman figure, because this is almost the same exact Superman figure, only he's got a different head sculpt. And they didn't give Batman a different head sculpt when they could have easily given Batman a different head sculpt. Evil Batman did have longer ears than the standard Batman, but they just gave Batman the regular Batman head. But Superman, nah, they went all out and give him this head with this nasty grimace, and it's like a little lip curl, almost like Elvis or something. And the hair to me looks a little different too. Like you can see Superman's curl has a little more body to it, a little more bounce, whereas evil Superman, his hair looks a little more kind of slicked down, kind of oily. And then he's got that funky Alice Cooper type eye makeup and the red eyes. You know how sometimes they like to give Superman those red heat vision eyes just to make him look more menacing or whatever. That's where this all started with this guy. And he actually was supposed to be a judgmental League of America. There we go. That would be mine. Because I don't like it when people are judgmental. When people are judgmental, I have very strong opinions about that. Max Games and Toys says, jeering, says Lone Dragon. Max Games and Toys says, remember the Injustice, like the Injustice video game? Yeah, and that one, like, were they still just called the Justice League in that? Because I know they thought that they were doing the right thing, even though they were tyrants. But they still thought of themselves as being good guys. The super enemies, on the other hand, they had absolutely no illusions about the fact that they were villains. Jobber, says Lone Dragon, the Jabroni League of America. and then the main hero in that is Black Adam, because he's the Rock. So it's a good version of Black Adam that's like the main hero in where he fights the Jabroni League of America. There we go. I think we figured it out. That's it. But yeah, the Injustice version was kind of more similar to the Justice Lords in that regard, where like they were basically like they kind of turned the corner and become tyrannical. Yeah, Lone Dragon agrees with me. It's Jabroni League of America. That's what we're going with. So, but even though they'd become corrupted and become like they still thought of themselves as fighting for justice, even though they were tyrants. But yeah, the super enemies were just they were criminals, and they just did not care what anybody thought about that. They were the bad guys. They called their own team the Super Enemies. They hung out in the Hall of Evil. They were 100% the baddies. Like with the Injustice version of Justice League, I could see like at some point, like, maybe a couple of those guys pulling each other to the side and they like, are we the baddies? That whole bit. But yeah, the Super Enemies were like, hell yeah, we're the baddies. Look, Aquaman's got an eye patch. Robin's got a little mustache. We're the baddies. Batman's dressed in an all red outfit, looks like the devil. Superman's got Alice Cooper makeup on. That's just the craziest thing to me, is that they actually thought, like, when they were designing this version of Superman, we're gonna put this funky Alice Cooper eye makeup on Superman, and that's he's just gonna rock that. So and I think it looks really cool. I think that, like, I love Ultraman, and I love the Justice Lord's design of Superman, and but this is probably my favorite design for an evil Superman, just because this is one that, like, this is one that just gives up any pretense on trying to look like a good guy at all. This guy is, you look at this guy and he's evil. If you didn't know about Superman as a character, if you were like an alien from outer space who'd never seen Superman, you could look at this character and go, oh shoot, that's a bad guy, isn't it? Whereas, like, the regular Superman is, quite nice. He's all red and blue, and he's, yeah. But this guy, you know, he might as well have a skull for an emblem. I can't think of anything worse as an emblem than a skull. But he's got an S, so I guess his S stands for hope. His S stands for shit. It's Superman. Like. So, but they look really cool together. Like, this is the fight that we never got in that episode. Superman never encountered his evil counterpart, and vice versa. So we never actually had a full confrontation between the Super Friends and the Super Enemies. But let's hope that Mcfarlane actually does manage to get out the rest of the members of the team, that we get Robin and Aquaman and Wonder Woman all colored in their Super Enemies colors. If not, I'm just going to have to buy extras of those figures and repaint them myself, because I want to have the full component of Super Enemies. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And that's also it for Super Friends for now, unfortunately. But don't worry, there is at least one more assortment of these coming, and you can bet your bottom dollar I intend on getting them so I can open them up. Super Friends is where my love of these characters began. Being like 2 or 3 years old and plopping myself down in front of the TV on Saturday morning in my pajamas and big bowl of cereal, and just getting caught up in the adventures of these fantastic characters. And then, of course, that led to me seeing, like, the Christopher Reeve movie, the Adam West Batman television show, the Linda Carter Wonder Woman television show, the comic books themselves, the George Reeves Superman TV show and reruns. Oh God, I just fell in love with these characters, and Super Friends is where it all started. So I've got a lot of affection for them, and I'm really enjoying this line of figures. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really grateful that Mcfarlane managed to do something special with these. Now, granted, not all these figures have been perfect, and like I said, I kind of feel like the Flash especially could have been a better figure, but Superman, I think they did a great job with. He gets a 9 out of 10. It'd be a 10 if they'd gotten the cape a little bit better. But I mean, like, look at a figure like Green Lantern. That's just perfect. I just love this Green Lantern figure. All the Batman figures have been great. We got the Adam West Batman. We got the Filmation Batman, and then the Super Friends Batman just looks awesome. I'm really excited about this line, guys, and I can't wait to see what comes up next. Anyway, I think that's about it for this episode. Lone Dragon, or I'm sorry, Max Games and Toys asks, great figures next. Skelra is gonna have to wait a little bit because I want to make sure that I've got all of those Master Universe figures together. I think I think probably what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start on the multiverse Green Lantern figures that I got, which means first I'm going to start on a little mini Justice Society because we've got this character that I promised to open her up a couple weeks ago, but I hadn't got around to it. We got Cyclone, who's Justice Society character. I decided to put her off because I thought she'd be a good way to segue from Cyclone into Mr. Bones, into Obsidian, and then into the rest of the Green Lantern characters. But I'm planning on doing those He-Man figures as soon as I get my box from Big Bad Toy Store, and hopefully I'll be getting Shitara sometime in between. Then we'll see. Max Game of Toys then asked, "What about Motu 2000X?" I'm definitely looking forward to the 2000X. That looks really exciting to me. I'm definitely wanting to pick those up. Happy Blue says, best source for learning about figures. I mean, you're on it right now. Not me specifically, although you probably pick up a few things from me here and there. But yeah, there's lots of great videos on YouTube about opening up action figures and collecting action figures and what are some of the coolest action figures. I watch them all the time myself. Lil Zay asks, what's your favorite Marvel Legend? Probably the Alex Ross Captain America figure. I thought that one was really awesome. And Captain America is my favorite Marvel character, so I really liked that one. Happy Blue is here. Hi to you, sir or madam. I don't know. What your gender is. Happy Blue could go either way, couldn't it? Well, it's nice to see you, regardless. Yeah, I think that's it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure you like and subscribe, and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Lone Dragon says all the ladies love Mr. Bones. Well, he's not called that for no reason, is he? Well, he's called that because he looks like a skeleton. But whatever. Happy Blue says your picks. I got Beyond Figures. No clue how to manage them. I am a bro. Okay, cool. Like I said, I don't know. I didn't want to make assumptions. I didn't want to be like talking to you like you were a dude and then have you go, I'm a girl. Like so that's why I asked. So, but yeah, what I would suggest doing is if you keep them loose, stick them on your shelves. If you keep them packaged, hang them on your wall. That's always a good thing to do. There's certain grading companies that can grade loose and carded figures if that's what you're into, and that's always a good thing. I need to put up more shelves myself because I want to have more shelves. I want to have more shelves here for when I do the videos, and that way when I do the videos, you see more of the figures on the shelves. I like for the background to look interesting. That's why I hung some stuff on the wall as it is, But yeah, like anybody who wants to learn more about action figures, I'd suggest just looking it up here on YouTube, and there's lots of cool videos about action figures, and I learned a lot of cool stuff that way. So, but yeah, that's it for Superman. I'm gonna go ahead and go take my photos for the thumbnail and get a nice picture of our Superman going up against. Happy Blue says, for sure, get multi-tier shelving. That would be cool. So I'm thinking like I'm gonna get like some of the smaller shelves and just kind of line them up all over the wall. I think that might be a good way. But I see like a lot of that kind of multi-tier. At one point, what I'd done, what was funny is because I had a lot of old VHS cassettes that I wasn't really using for anything. So I would use those to make tiers on my shelves for action figures to stand on, just stack those up. And for a while there, you could just get VHS tapes for like super cheap because like you go to Goodwill and buy like 12 of them for $1. They just want to get rid of the things. So but that's it for this episode. Thank you everyone for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe, so I like to say like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I like it when you leave comments. YouTube likes it too, but I especially like it. I like it when you like and subscribe, but not as much as YouTube likes it when you like and subscribe. I like it when you leave comments, but YouTube likes it too, but not quite as much as I do. So it balances out. Do all of those things, and then we're all happy. Thanks for watching. I'll be on next episode. I'm going to open up Cyclone. Lone Dragon says, try gluing the figures to the ceiling. It's an untapped source of extra space. Well, yeah, but you could hang them from the ceiling, like put Superman into like a flying pose, and then have him hanging from the ceiling that way. I mean, why not? That'd be a cool thing to do. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.